When we talk about China and Taiwan, the conversation often jumps straight to the possibility of a military invasion.
Right. That's the headline scenario.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while that's obviously a serious concern, it might not be the only or maybe even the primary path China is considering.
Mm.
What if there's a whole range of less overt strategies they could employ to bring Taiwan under their control? That's the crucial question we're diving into today.
That's right. We've got some compelling analysis here that lays out these very non-military options, the ways China could exert, significant pressure and ultimately aim for unification without necessarily resorting to a full-scale military conflict.
Yeah.
This is a really complex and long-standing issue, and understanding these more subtle tactics is, well, it's key to grasping the full picture.
Exactly. A military invasion carries immense risks for everyone involved. So it really stands to reason that Beijing would be exploring other avenues, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Our goal in this deep dive is to unpack these potential tools, the economic leverage, the strategic ambiguities, the methods of influencing public opinion and international relations. Okay, let's start by looking at something fundamental to any economy. Trade.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the sheer extent to which Taiwan's economy is intertwined with China. The analysis points out that over 40%, think about that, over 40% of Taiwan's exports go to the mainland and Hong Kong.
Wow, 40%.
Yeah, that's a significant dependency, and it provides Beijing with considerable potential leverage.
It's not just about the overall trade volume, though, is it? It's more about the ability to target specific sectors that are vital to Taiwan's economy.
Exactly.
We're talking about semiconductors, which are globally critical, electronics manufacturing, and even agriculture. The 2021 ban on Taiwanese pineapples, citing alleged biosecurity concerns, that's a really concrete example of this in action, isn't it?
Precisely. And the key insight here isn't just about pineapples. It's the demonstration effect. Beijing showed its willingness to inflict economic pain for political reasons,
Right.
sending a chill through other sectors that rely on trade with the mainland. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how these targeted restrictions could escalate.
Beyond just specific agricultural products.
Yeah, imagine disruptions to Taiwan's access to essential raw materials or critical components needed for their advanced manufacturing industries. That would create a ripple effect throughout their entire economy.
It's almost like a form of economic attrition. Slow pressure.
Yeah.
And then there's the energy security aspect, which the analysis highlights as another significant vulnerability.
Definitely. Taiwan imports almost all of its energy, over 98%, I think.
98%, wow.
Yeah, and a large portion of that comes from the Middle East, with shipping lanes passing right through the South China Sea.
Okay, and building on that point about energy dependence, the source highlights a potentially significant vulnerability related to China's presence in the South China Sea.
This raises an important question. How might China leverage its growing influence there without initiating a direct military confrontation with Taiwan itself? The analysis suggests the possibility of disrupting or delaying energy shipments under various pretexts, regulatory inspections, environmental concerns, maybe even routine military exercises in strategic waterways. Plausible deniability, sort of.
And the crucial point here, as the source suggests, is that you don't need a full-scale blockade to create major problems.
Not at all.
Even intermittent delays or just the credible threat of disruption could have a significant impact on Taiwan. Think about the implications for manufacturing output, the reliability of transportation networks, even basic utilities if energy supplies become uncertain.
It could create a persistent sense of unease and vulnerability, just that constant worry.
Absolutely. And that vulnerability directly feeds into the next set of tactics.
Yeah.
What the analysis refers to as gray zone operations, specifically focusing on a maritime squeeze.
Right, this gray zone tactic, it's designed to be ambiguous enough to avoid triggering a strong international response, unlike a clear act of aggression.
So it stays below that threshold.
Exactly. While still exerting significant economic pressure, a key element in their broader strategy.
Okay, so this isn't about a formal declaration of war and a blockade of all ports, like in the old days. It's a more subtle and incremental approach to restricting access.
Exactly. Envision a scenario with increased yet seemingly random inspections of commercial vessels by the Chinese Coast Guard and their maritime militia operating in the Taiwan Strait.
Okay.
Each inspection causes delays, increases operational costs for shipping companies, and introduces a level of unpredictability into the supply chain. It's a way to create a de facto blockade over time without crossing the threshold of a clear act of war.
It's like slowly turning up the pressure, bit by bit. And the analysis draws a parallel to China's established tactics in the South China Sea regarding disputed waters.
Yeah.
We've seen them gradually assert control through these kinds of incremental, non-military actions there.
That's a key insight. It's a playbook they've used before, right? And the economic consequences for Taiwan could be substantial. As the analysis points out, the resulting delays and increased costs would likely discourage foreign investment.
Makes sense. Uncertainty is bad for business.
Totally. Insurance premiums for ships destined for Taiwan would probably skyrocket, making it a less attractive destination for international trade. Over time, this sustained economic pressure could become incredibly difficult to manage.
It paints a picture of a very gradual but deliberate weakening of Taiwan's economic links to the rest of the world.
Okay, now, shifting our focus to a different domain, let's consider the less visible but potentially equally disruptive tactics: cyber warfare and psychological operations.
Yeah, this sounds like something ripped from, the headlines of a modern security briefing. It really does.
And what's particularly concerning here is the potential to inflict widespread disruption and sow societal discord, all from a distance.
Right.
The analysis highlights China's sophisticated cyber warfare capabilities. These attacks could range from, say, ransomware targeting critical infrastructure control systems, things like power grids, water treatment plants.
Oh, wow.
To sophisticated espionage campaigns aimed at stealing sensitive data and sowing distrust within government agencies. Imagine the chaos and fear that could erupt from a coordinated series of such attacks.
It's not just about disrupting infrastructure, though, is it? It's also about manipulating information and exploiting existing social divisions within Taiwan. That seems crucial.
Precisely. The analysis discusses the use of large-scale misinformation campaigns, leveraging social media platforms to disseminate pro-Beijing narratives and erode public trust in the Taiwanese government and its institutions.
Okay.
And what stands out, I think, is the potential to exploit generational differences in attitudes towards the mainland.
That's a really insightful point. You have distinct generations in Taiwan with different formative experiences and perspectives on their relationship with China.
Absolutely.
So if you can strategically amplify these existing divisions through targeted misinformation, you could significantly weaken social cohesion and the overall will to resist external pressure.
It's a form of attack aimed directly at the minds of the population, trying to break that unity.
Yeah. And we shouldn't overlook the more traditional diplomatic and political strategies at play either.
No, definitely not. This involves actively working to isolate Taiwan on the international stage and undermine its internal political unity.
Right. We've seen consistent efforts by China to pressure other countries into severing diplomatic ties with Taiwan.
Poaching allies.
And to block Taiwan's participation in international organizations like the United Nations and the World Health Organization. It's this persistent chipping away at Taiwan's international legitimacy and its ability to garner global support.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this diplomatic isolation can create a growing sense of being alone and vulnerable, which further intensifies the psychological pressure we discussed earlier. It kind of reinforces the narrative of inevitability, doesn't it? Like, see, no one's coming to help.
And it's not solely about external pressure. The analysis also points to the cultivation of political sympathizers within Taiwan through various economic incentives, as well as the funding of pro-Beijing media outlets and think tanks. It's a concerted effort to shape the domestic political discourse from within.
Exactly. It's a comprehensive, multifaceted approach designed to erode Taiwan's resilience from both external and internal angles. And all of these individual pressures contribute to the cumulative psychological impact,
which the analysis emphasizes as the overarching strategic objective.
Yeah.
This is where all these different levers of pressure kind of come together, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ultimate aim is to foster a sense of inevitability among the Taiwanese population, a feeling that resisting unification is ultimately futile.
And what's particularly noteworthy is how the weakening economy, the internal political divisions, and the diminishing international recognition all contribute to this increasing psychological burden on the people of Taiwan.
Right.
The analysis suggests that over time, a sense of fatigue and maybe a pragmatic reassessment of the situation might lead to an acceptance of Beijing's terms, particularly if those terms are framed in a way that promises economic stability and regional security, offering a sort of deal.
It's a sobering thought. The idea of a nation's will to resist being gradually eroded to the point of acceptance without a direct military confrontation between the main forces. It's a very different kind of challenge to national sovereignty.
It really is. And this raises a critical question for Taiwan.
Yeah.
How do you maintain the societal will to resist in the face of this kind of comprehensive non-military pressure campaign?
Yeah.
It presents a very different set of challenges compared to preparing for and defending against a conventional military invasion.
So just to quickly summarize the key areas we've explored today. We've looked at economic coercion, where Taiwan's significant trade and energy dependence are potential points of leverage. We then delved into gray zone tactics, like the maritime squeeze, designed to disrupt access without a formal blockade.
Right.
We also examined cyber warfare and psychological operations aimed at critical infrastructure, and, crucially, public opinion.
Yeah, the hearts and minds aspect.
And finally, we discussed diplomatic isolation and political sabotage as tools to undermine international standing and internal cohesion.
Precisely. And the key takeaway is these aren't isolated tactics. They are interconnected and likely to be employed in a coordinated manner to incrementally weaken Taiwan's resolve and resilience over time.
It definitely provides a much deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding the China-Taiwan issue, moving beyond the often singular focus on military action.
Yeah, it's more nuanced.
It reveals a much more nuanced and frankly kind of insidious set of potential pressures.
Yeah.
So here's a final thought for you, our listeners, to consider. Given the multifaceted nature of these non-military strategies, what do you think poses the most significant long-term challenge for Taiwan in maintaining its autonomy? And maybe, how might international actors need to adapt their approaches to respond effectively to these evolving, less-than-obvious tactics?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It certainly is. It's a complex and ongoing challenge, and hopefully this deep dive has given you some valuable insights to consider as you follow this issue.